Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. Now, as always, we start off the show, like, subscribe to our 7 platforms. You got Spotify, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Smashing that now. But today is a very special guest, a man that I've got so much respect for. He cops a lot of criticism in his job, and he does it with utmost passion that you can possibly think of. He's a great man named Ray Chamberlain. Now, he has got a story to tell, I'm telling you. He's one of the most iconic people in the AFL industry, and it is an absolute great chat. So really excited for you to listen in. I want to actually start off with a quote of yours. Now, I did a bit of research on you, Ray, as I do with all my guests, and I read this quote, and I really vibed with this. This is a really good one. And the quote is, "Elite performance is a sum of all the micro moments. It's a craft, and it's what underpins the most special moments." Now, is that a quote from you?
It is actually. Yeah, that is good research.
I do my best. I do my best work before people come on, and then it kind of goes downhill once I get them on. No, but it kind of, I guess, gives you a bit of an idea of the kind of personality you are. There's so many little things that probably happened in your life to lead you to where you are today, and yeah, we'll just jump into it. Like, because you're born in ACT. You're not a Melbourne man. Not a Melbourne man.
And thank you for that, mate. That's really kind of you. I think one of the first lessons I learned here in Melbourne, I was in the VFL. And, mate, this won't vibe with you. You will not have seen this stuff. I'm as old as dirt, right? And so what would happen is they would play curtain raisers before the big dogs rolled out, right? So Richmond may be playing Essendon at the MCG, and so there'll be a curtain raiser at like 9:30 a.m.
Cool.
Right, like proper early.
Yeah, okay.
And, so this whole notion of kicking the dew off is legit, right?
Yeah.
So you'd be drying the ground for when the big show started. And I remember one day I was walking across the MCG, and one of our coaches was there, and he said to me, he goes, mate, he goes, "I think you're a horrible Hayden Kennedy." Now, Hayden Kennedy was the games record holder. He was our coach. Yeah. He's a legend. I have always just held Hayden on a pedestal. He's a legend, right, in what we do. He goes, "You'll be a worse Darren Goldspink." So Darren Goldspink umpired a Basquillion grand finals and whatever, right? He goes, "You're a dog shit Matthew James," who was the it guy for us at that stage, right? And he goes, "But he goes, I think you make a bloody good Ray Chamberlain." And it was really funny because this guy only observed me in like 3 or 4 games ever.
This is very early days.
Early doors. Like I'm talking 2000, year 2000. But I remember this conversation so vividly, like it resonated with me. And the kind of thing, what I kind of came to an understanding, because I nearly packed it in and went home. You're trying to make the AFL list, missed out on trialling again. I was like, you know what, shove it, I'm out. And my now wife said to me, "You'll regret it."
Yeah.
You'll regret it. Stop being a sook, have another dig. You will regret this if you go now. And it was midway through the following season that I got a phone call and got promoted onto the AFL.
Huge.
And the thing that resonated with me back then was, if you're authentically who you are, right, so you got no evil to anyone, you're not trying to treat anyone poorly, you're not doing anything wrong per se, and you're just being authentically yourself and you fall short, I can live with that. That will be okay with me.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to put yourself forward as something that it's just not who you are, and you fail, I don't think it'd be very restless. I would not forgive myself for that. So I don't know when it stopped being cool to treat people well, right? And,
Karma, yeah.
and just be you, right? Like, what does Dill Buckley say? Everyone else is taken, right? So, like, just be yourself. And I don't know any other way, mate.
Yeah, and it is a credit to you. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that's ever done it even remotely close to what you do. Like, you're very unique, and you've got such a good relationship, I feel like, with the industry itself and players and coaches and everyone else, and you're so well respected within the AFL, and it is a credit to you. And it's I look at it, and at some point, I guess we're somewhat similar stories. That's probably really going off. That's really pushing it a bit, but I don't think you grew up probably wanting to be an umpire.
No.
Because you originally were a cricket player, is what I've looked up.
This is
And
true.
You did a little bit of cricket. And you were part of a national championship, is what I actually read.
I love my cricket, and it was something that I consider myself to be good at. Right,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm a wicket keeper, and I could bat a little bit, and I loved the game. And the sides I played in, we won premierships and all that sort of stuff when we weren't meant to.
How old?
So I played, from a kid, but I played senior cricket for Tuggeranong in the ACT. That's in Canberra, mate.
Yep. Don't ask me how to spell that.
No, don't bother. And we played against guys like so Brad Haddon, who was a wicketkeeper for Australia and is now a coach at the level. There were guys like there was a big West Indian guy who used to play. Like, there's lots of names that won't resonate with you at all, right?
We're nearly on recently. So
yeah.
she really just tested my knowledge.
But it was really competitive, and we were all these young guys because we were out think of south of the city, and then go further south, like as far south as you can go. That's where I grew up, right? And so we were like in a nappy valley. So we're all these young guys, and I remember the paper said, they had us finishing last. Young, lots of potential, too soon.
Gosh, sounds familiar.
Right? Anyway, yeah, right? you heard this song? Yeah. And we won the comp. Right, we won the comp.
Huge.
And so, that was off the back of lots of people contributing. But I loved cricket, and I played national championships and got offers to go and play in Sydney and overseas and stuff like that for little bits and bobs. But I wasn't ever going to be like elite.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't that. Like, you look at guys, like I remember coming down and I played at Melbourne. I got invited down to play from a friend. And I remember seeing Brad Hodge hit the cricket ball, and it just sounds different.
Yeah.
Like they just, like the guys who are the best, like they just do it different. Hads was the same. He'd hit a ball. I need a 7-iron to hit, he'd hit a cricket ball, right? So the guys, I was never that level ever, but I was a good clubby, right? And I loved it. But umpiring, I got into by chance. So, this whole thing about 6,000 umpires short and, I was
going to ask you about this, but go ahead, keep going.
Well, we haven't discovered fire because, 20 odd years ago, when I umpired my first game by accident, I went down to watch my youngest brother play. So my mum and dad were a bit worried about him, come and take an interest in him. So I went down to watch him play, and no umpire turned up.
Yeah.
And so then the club president comes over, and I'm playing in the under-18s that day. He goes, Ray, if you umpire the game, we'll fill your car up with petrol, right? And we won't let anyone hang any shit on you, right? Like, that's literally
This
it.
is my college basketball career.
So I go and see Mum. I go, you still giving me $20 for petrol? She's like, yep. So I pocketed that.
Yes, yes.
Bit of commerce. And then I went back and I said, all right, now I'm in. And it got to half time, and this old skinny guy come over. His name's Bob Stacey.
Yeah.
A ripping human being. I learnt more about umpiring in the 3 years that Bob was my coach and mentor than I've probably learned technically since.
Yeah.
He was just brilliant, this man.
It's a huge learning curve, I feel like, too, at the very beginning, too. And
he was incredible. And he says to me, how long have you been doing this for? And I said, 45 minutes. And he goes, no, not today. Like how long? I said, no, I understood the question. I've been doing it for fucking 45 minutes.
What was his face? His just face like, sure, not.
And he goes, you can earn 6 figures part-time doing this. And I think at the time, because I was in college, I was in year 11, I think.
Yeah.
I was working at Eagle Boys Pizza.
Eagle Boys, shout out to Eagle Boys Pizza. Let's go.
Pink polo, mate. Pink polo.
And the bonus. Can we get a photo of this, please?
The bonus structure at Eagle Boys was how many garlic breads you could knock off in a shift, right?
Huge.
So 6 figures part-time, I'm like, mate, I'm in. And I loved footy. I've always loved AFL footy. And I played 250 games for my club. Guys like Aaron Hamill, who is now a coach at Carlton.
Oh, yeah.
And Craig Bolton, who played for Brisbane and Sydney.
Yeah.
Justin Blumfield's a premiership player at Essendon. So those lads were all in the same age group, and they were a year younger than me, but that was sort of where I grew up.
Yeah.
And but I was no good, and they were awesome. So anyway, I ended up umpiring, and I loved it, mate. I loved it because anyway, but the point being is that there was a shortage of umpires 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a consistent headline for 30 years.
Have you yeah, and there's lots of reasons for that, I think.
It's probably just a fear of not having someone. And there's always constant scrutiny around it where everyone goes, oh, well, you know, like we need to get better in this. We need to get better in this. And the reason is because we don't have enough resources. We don't have this or that, you know, and it's like an easy excuse maybe.
I think also like there's lots of inputs. There's lots of simple things we could do, I think, to help it. But I know lots of people are genuinely invested in trying to help recruit, retain, and make umpiring something that's more appealing to a broader community. So, you know what? All power to them.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've kind of dotted on a few things that we're going to talk about definitely, but we'll go back to I guess you talked about recently, just a second ago, about going and starting, I guess, a bit of school and then getting into umpiring, and then from there having those kind of mentors and everything else. Now, you're a man who's got a lot of experience in AFL, and you've had a lot of mentors along the way, and you're probably now on the other side of the spectrum where you're actually mentoring young kids along the way.
Yep.
What is some of your best advice? Because you've had a successful career, and it's not even done. Like, yes, I need to actually ask you this. How are you feeling? You've been injured, so I need to actually get an update here.
So I've gone through the...
I should have started off the top
I've gone
with that.
through denial. No, I'll be fine. Right, I'll be fine. Right,
Should be right.
it's only a torn tendon in the hip. I'll be fine. I mean, we run a bit, but I'll be fine. To trying to rehab and realizing that potentially I won't be fine. Right. So then anger. Right, and then you know you get you're the office sook for a few days.
Yeah.
And I'm at acceptance.
Acceptance.
We've arrived at acceptance. So I've done my rest. I've been in the gym, building the Serena, and just trying to get the strength and everything back. And tomorrow I'll do my 5th run back. So I'm.
You do.
We're working back into it.
You're towards the right direction.
You know what? I do. I love the game, as I said, and I have such incredible regard for those who, you know, the coaches, the players, and the fans. I mean, you know that yourself. Like, the last couple of years where we didn't have fans there, like, it was different.
Dark time.
It sucked. So I genuinely really highly value the game and everyone who's involved in it. And so, I'm filthy when you watch these games that are, you know, kicks after the siren and draws and rah, and you're like...
It's the last 10 games of ours.
I'm sitting there just watching on the couch going, man. But yeah, so I'll get there. I'll get back.
Yeah. Well, with all the experience you have, what's some advice for maybe someone who's maybe listening who doesn't quite know what they're going to do with their life, maybe doesn't have a 30-year plan? I mean, obviously, you're probably life in general, you weren't probably planning to be an umpire. You were probably, you know, as a kid wishing to be a cricket player and play for Australia and all that. And then maybe playing the AFL. And then now you kind of take a bit of a left turn. You're kind of doing something different. Like, what is your advice to someone who may be a bit lost in the sense of what their career is going to be going forward?
This is awesome. And I was speaking to a young fellow only just last week, actually, and caught up with him and his parents. And I don't think you don't need to have a destination in mind, really. I think it's great to be aspirational and have people that are your heroes. I love George Gregan. Now, he played for the Wallabies, right? And this guy was just the most fierce competitor, and he was a cricketer, and he was from Canberra, right? So I love this dude, right? Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, so that's all cool, right? But I think what it's about is just trying to understand that being happy, right? Treating people well. So, you know, we all at different times, Mason, we're givers and takers at different times, right? And there's this saying that I kind of like, which is, you know, takers eat better, but givers sleep better, right? And I think if you can just go, I'm not here to be interesting, I'm actually wanting to be interested.
Yeah.
That's really hard. And I think I've learned some of this stuff since being a dad, actually, to be fair, right?
I've learned a lot, yeah.
Well, you know, we get caught up, and I'll be doing this today because it's the nature of what we're doing, right? I will listen to your question and my intention's to respond, right? But when you're a dad, you need to listen to hear them.
Yeah.
Is actually more important.
Yeah.
So then when you come back to your question, young person, not sure what they want to be, you don't need to know the outcome. And you can have dreams and goals and aspirations and all that bullshit, but really what it is just bringing the best version of yourself every day, feet hit the ground and the world goes, look out, old mate's into it, and enjoy your life. So treat people well, find the joy, right? And then follow your nose. And I just, you know, we're learning all the time. My mum is a great example.
Hey, we love mums on this show.
Right? My mum's a great example of the answer to this question, or just trying to give an illustration as to what I'm trying to say, right? My mum went to typing school, mate. Right? I still give her shit about that. I'll ring, I go, Patricia Ellen Chamberlain, do you realise you're that old, you went to typing school, right? Raymond John, right?
It's not even a computer.
Right?
This is a typewriter.
It's madness, right? So the point being is the world just evolves so rapidly, right? And all these different bits and pieces and you're zigging and zagging. So we're learning. Nothing's done. Every day's a school day, all that gear, right? So don't fret about the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Immerse yourself in what you're doing. By all means, as I said, have aspirations and goals, but immerse yourself in the day and the people you're with.
Yeah, that's
when you
a big one, yeah.
fun, mate.
100%. Sharing the experience with others
Right.
is such a massive part of like actually being happy, I feel like.
Totally. And I don't want to get all namaste on people or whatever, but it is. It's like, don't worry about where you land, right? It's that whole travel piece and, winning and losing together. The results, whatever. I can think of some of our games where we've come off. I remember coming off a game at the SCG. I thought we were going to get crap beat out of us. Like, so the security guards there I've known since I was a kid, right? Because I was doing
Best mates with the security guards.
Oh, wait. You know those boys tight, right? So AFL reserves and that, and like you get the AFL would bring out the broadcasters that have a tie. Every year they'd have a broadcaster's tie, and I'd get one and I'd always give it to the security guard. He loved it. And he still looks after me today, this bloke. He's a legend in Sydney.
That.
Anyway, we do this game and there'd been an error, and this is back before your time. There's only one boundary umpire on each side, right? So those boys had to hammer, mate. And if the ball got rebounded out of deep 50, there's no way they could see it on the half-forward flank. Like, it's physically impossible. And this ball on the replay, it looked like the ball almost hit the fence. It was that far out, right? And a goal results to Essendon. Now they're up by 2 points, and the Swans fans are cutting
losing
sick.
it.
Anyway, Essendon win, and we're like, Jesus. Now I'm in the field, so I'm washing my hands clear of this. It's got nothing to do with me, right? We're about to make our way off, and you've got to walk through the crowd in Sydney to get to your rooms, right? And the security guards come barreling out. Now, they don't normally do that. They meet us about 5 metres off the ground, and he's come running out. I'm like, Jesus. And he just looked at me. He goes, keep your mouth shut and your head down, right? Wow. Anyway, it was a pretty ordinary reception this day, right? But we still talk about that night.
Yeah.
Like Scott McLaren and Chris Donlan and myself, we were the three umpires, right? That was forever ago.
Yeah.
But I remember that like it was last night. So it wasn't a great night for us.
Did you run off the field?
No, we walked off.
You walked off.
Yeah,
I would have been dead spread at that joint. I would have been like, no chance. I'm out of here.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And I remember I learned a lot because so we were the embryos, right? And Scotty, he was like the old boy who was responsible. Now, it had nothing to do with him that because it was a boundary umpire thing.
Yeah.
But he knew he was going to be held accountable by our coaches that things didn't go the way they're meant to, right? He was so flat after the game because we had this umpiring issue, right? And I learned the responsibility actually that is accompanied in the role. Like up until that, I just thought it was really cool to be doing these games.
Yeah.
I didn't realise for the big dogs
the back ending of it,
what comes with it, right? Because I was still too new to understand. So even in the losses, you've got these great stories and memories, and it's because of the people that you're with.
Yeah.
So really, mate, that's a long way for us getting to answer your question. But quite frankly, get on with your day.
It's about the people you were with and the experiences you have and the memories you create.
Agreed.
Namaste.
Yeah, correct.
We'll go back to your university. Now, you're a teacher, bachelor in teaching. Is that right? Now, I feel like teaching and the way a lot of people know you is someone might have a crack at you and you kind of go, no, that's inappropriate. No, don't say those kind of words. We're not about that, Like you're like a teacher to players, I feel like sometimes.
There's a bit of
that. Now, what lessons have you learned in teaching that you apply to your life now? Because like teaching is something that I think, undervalue as a society. Teachers have the hardest job that you will ever find anyone else in this world to have.
You spend 4 years doing your Bachelor of Education, right? Come out, you get a job. If you're any good, they load you up with every other responsibility that you can think of because they're so under-resourced, right?
Yeah,
this is within the system. And then, so what happens then, the very last thing that you get to is actually the pedagogy, right? The science of teaching and learning. It's the last, you don't even get to it because you're doing every other thing within the system and you're 3 steps from the door And it's like, what lesson is this? Who's here? What are we doing today? And I found that really hard to actually accept. I was like, actually, I'm meant to be engaging with each of these individuals and understanding them and then conveying things in a way that you understand versus they understand versus. And I'm not doing any of that because I'm administering all these other programs and whatever, right? So that I found that really, really quite frustrating. So yeah, teaching is a challenge. I think one of the cool things, like if I talk to you in a certain, and we've got an issue to discuss or whatever, I can talk in a certain way. But if I'm talking with Dustin Martin, as an example, it will be far more succinct and it'll be just move on, right? Versus if I talk to somebody over here where they don't even want to be spoken to.
So you take in personalities of players before you talk to them?
So you absolutely understand that you've got to have the whole golf set, right? You can't just bring a driver to every event. You know, maybe just laying up with a 7-iron will be fine, right? And that's the craft of what we do. So it's not necessarily an athletic event that we do.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's a young dude's game at the elite level, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you haven't learned enough, failed enough as a human, right? Got all these life experiences drawing going, actually. And so as much as you want to, I think you're challenged. It's challenging to have the empathy that's required.
Yeah.
And then also understanding, well, yeah, that's fine, but this is my job.
Especially in the heat of the moment too.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So the other part to it is we're in a really weird time, right, where we want everything to be perfect. It's either, it's got to be right or wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what happens in our game, mate. Like we're dealing in things like reasonable time, prior opportunity, genuine attempt. So it's subjective in nature, right?
This is my issue with the AFL.
No, but see, drop it. Right? This is where you got to just sip on the tea for a minute. Sip on the tea for a minute and just consider this, right? So 100,000 at the G, right?
Yeah.
You're taking hangers against the Tigers and it's going nuts, right? And there's a tackle on centre wing, okay? 100,000 people there, 50,000 go, boom, right? And 50,000 go back. And then this little dude in the green shirt goes, play on, right?
Play on.
And then 100,000 people, Mason, come together and they agree on one thing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
But then they talk about it all week and it's TV shows and it's coffees and it's newspapers and it's podcasts, right? And that's actually the beauty of the game, mate. So it's not a black and white game. You want that, go to the tennis. They'll have a seat. Lots of empty seats.
Okay, I will tell you.
Right? Boring. You can do that if that's your shtick. But that's not what we trade in here.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And the whole game itself is predicated around this ambiguity, but also this management piece. So we run around with this whole idea that we've got to be right all the time. Just get it right. And they're different. They're different.
Yeah.
And we have trouble with that. We have trouble selling that and we have trouble understanding that. And I think that's where we get some of the
fights, yeah. Because I've always had a thing with AFL of there is a lot of ambiguity around stuff, and rules change every year, which is a wild thing to say about a sport. It's like, might be that one year, might not be. You were telling me a story about bouncing the ball in the middle of the games, not in the center bounce, and I was just like, oh, that actually happened?
Yeah,
like,
around the ground.
Had no idea.
We punch out 30 a game.
Trying to sort it out, which people are wondering whether bounces are going to be in the AFL in 5 years, and it was like, that was everywhere. So it is changing quite a bit, but we'll dive into more of your umpiring because I've got you here and I could talk to you forever, to be honest, but we'll fast forward a bit. Now, you have done what is probably some of my supporters have remembered and one of the most unique experiences that's ever happened. It's a grand final rematch.
Yes.
Now, can you talk to that day, maybe some like smaller stories that happened kind of in there that maybe some people don't know about, that was just, because that day is iconic. And not just for that fan of St. Kilda and Collingwood and all that, but I think just as for the sport itself to have a grand final rematch is something that's just, you'll never maybe see again.
No, well, you won't. They've changed the rules, so they won't. They'll finish it on that day, no matter what. Overtime, blah, blah, blah.
They might change it.
Yeah. I reckon they won't. There's a couple of really cool things there. I've got to say I was blessed in that the support that I had with my colleagues. So I had two of our umpires who, apart from being fabulous umpires, like in what we do, they're our greats, okay? They're ripping humans. And they're different. They're different guys. They're really smart. They're bloody brilliant at what they do. And so I knew I was so well protected and surrounded, right? So I'm forever indebted to Sean Ryan and Brett Roseberry in terms of how they treated me for the whole week.
Yeah.
And then the ensuing week. Because it's massive.
Oh, it's a different experience.
It's massive. From
Can't treat it like
you get
normal.
hundreds of text messages, and there's media, and there's again training eventually, and then there's bloody parades and all this stuff that you've never done before, and you're knackered, mate. Like Friday, I got home from the grand final parade. I was knackered, mate. When I said to my wife, I said, "Oh, honestly, we'll pick this up tomorrow." Clunk, out, right? So it's a huge week. And so they did all the heavy lifting, Sean and Brett, and I just had to try and manage myself. So I owe them massively. But a couple of really, I think, interesting stories, certainly for us, we had not had a draw.
Yeah.
I remember at the end, Nick Maxwell and Nick Rewalt were here, and Nick Rewalt said to me, "What happens now?" Right? And I said, "Well, if that's accurate, we have to come back next week."
Oh, jeez.
So he dropped a few. So he gave me some feedback,
Yeah.
the big fella. And then I remember we were walking off, and Adrian Anderson was walking onto the ground with Peter Matera, and they were going to present the Norm Smith Medal for the best player on the ground.
Yeah.
And Adrian's a really disciplined, straight, work face on, bang, right?
Yeah.
And he's walking on, and obviously realizes they're going to sell it out again next week and all that sort of stuff, right?
It's like, and
it was the first time I ever heard him swear, right? He's like, "Fucking great job."
It's like he's happy. He's stoked.
And I said to the boys, I reckon we're sweet for next week.
Yeah. Another parade? Let's do it again.
But we come off the ground, and like normally what happens is there's a bath and it's full of, champagne and beers and all that, right?
Yeah.
And that quickly got emptied, right? And all the hierarchy came in, and like they were very much, get ready for well done.
Yeah.
Pull your heads in, get ready for next week. You got a week to go. And like we have all, like you guys do, we have our silly Sundays and all those sorts of things, and you've bought the outfit and you're ready. Couldn't go, right?
Delayed it.
So all of those things spilled out of it. I remember different parts of the game. I remember going out there, and Brett took the first bounce, and they said, just get it in an end zone and just get into the vibe of the game.
Get into it,
relax, And Darren Jolly kicks a goal 23 seconds in, and I'm standing in the middle of the MCG with hand grenade in my hand. Go up straight, you bastard, right? So that was cool, and I just remember how hot it was. So, your umpire, so back then, the way you got appointed to games was different to now. So if you were going well, you got the bigger games.
Yeah.
What deemed the more high-profile games.
Prime games, Friday nights and stuff.
Friday night, Saturday night. And so for the last 8 weeks of the season, I umpired at night time in Melbourne every week.
Far out. Yeah.
So it's like 4 degrees, right?
Totally different.
Grand final day, it's 26 degrees. Like, mate, and I just remember, and I could run, right? I remember going, geez, hot.
Yeah.
So it was just all those little nuances. I remember seeing the screen at one stage, and they've cut to Eric Banner and Michael Klim. Going, geez, all the big dogs are in town, So it was a really unique experience, and I've got to say, one of the coolest 2 weeks of my sporting career for sure. Do you know how many guys? And at this stage, it's only been men in the field. Do you know how many umpires in 180 years have umpired an AFL grand final as a field umpire? So 180 years of footy.
I'll take a stab here.
Yeah,
180 years.
Let's unpack it.
180 years.
So you got one umpire for a while, and then they went to 2, and for like 25 or plus years, it might be longer than that. It might be closer to 30 actually now. We've had 3 in the field. So 180 years, how many people have had the opportunity to umpire an AFL grand final?
Like 150?
Less than 60.
What? Yeah. Less than 60 people have ever umpired a grand final.
Yeah, 100% in the field, right? So they don't just hand these out.
Yeah.
Like people always go, "Oh, you're doing the grand final this year?" Mate, walk through this with me. Right? You know what I mean? So it's really hard.
Yeah, it's a special club.
To be afforded the chance. And so, I've I did 2 in 1 year, which was super cool, and I've sat on the bench 3 times. That's the worst seat in the world. You're the first loser. And then I got to do another one in 2019. So to be involved 6 times and 3 times on the field, it's just the best. It's so cool.
I remember 2018 when we played. I walked out on the ground before the game, and you were there, and you were filthy. You were not in a good mood.
I was right to be there.
You were right to be there, but I mean, like, you wanted to be on the field. You were the substitute for the day, and I was like, I remember talking to you, and you were just like, I was all like happy, excited about the grand final, like just locked in. You're like, I just want to be umpiring today.
That's it.
Oh.
And the hardest thing about it is that the 3 people who have the spot that you jealously want to be in, they're your mates.
Oh, exactly. And you would train with them all the time.
All the time, right? And like those 3 people who umpired in that game, we'd umpired together, and we've known each other since we're like in our early 20s.
Yeah.
We've gone out to get weddings and birthdays and children being born and all that stuff. So they're your mates, right? And you only want them to succeed because the group is being represented by, and the game is being represented by those 3 people on the field at that time. And we're just waiting to exhale, right? We don't win or lose, right? We don't want to breathe out and be able to get on with life, right? So you want them to do super well, but at the same time, you've got this thing where you go, man,
this burning desire.
I'm that close. Like, come on, you know? So, 100%. And what a great game. Like, I know you guys would be a result and whatever, but brilliant match and like incredible day.
Would you have called it?
I got a better idea. First quarter when Langdon didn't want to rush the ball, would have you rushed it?
I don't even remember that.
No, because there's 2 hours. We can go back to any moment you want.
That's not that matters.
You're going to own it when it's a foot off the line and you just got to rush it through from behind?
We don't remember that.
No, I do. I remember all of them, mate.
Oh, it's just implanted in my head. On grand finals though, because as players, I didn't understand this when I first went to a grand final. People told me, I said, grand finals umpired totally different. Okay. And I didn't get it. I didn't think, it's a game. Everyone does the same thing. You umpire the same way you would on a regular match day. And it is umpired differently. Now, I want to ask you, why is that? Out of curiosity. And are you a fan of it?
I'll answer that openly and honestly. But I'm going to start with a question. So you've made an assertion. You've said that it's umpired differently. Yeah. Right? So I'm going to say, how? Tell me how in your eyes, right? Because this is cool. You've played in them.
Yeah.
How is an umpire different?
It's not ticky-tack. It is loose. It is, you're not getting me too many high tackles or holding the balls or holding the man or anything like that. It is just play on and it's really just an arm wrestle, I feel like at times, trying to get like the ball or trying to get past someone or whatever it is, because you realize that like you're not going to get, you really have to actually get a disposal off and do it correctly because it's not going to be, there's no gifts.
You catch and kill your own, that's fine. So I get that. I understand where you're coming from with that. I'd ask you to consider this, right? Yeah. So of the 24 players that took the field in 2018 for you guys, were they considered your best 24 players?
That we had available, I'd say. Yeah. It'd have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So we have 34 umpires on our list. Yeah. Some have just debuted. Some have umpired 450 games, right? So we've whittled them down and there are 3 left standing.
Four.
Well,
the sub, mate.
I've been there 3 times and I was sitting. So I wasn't standing. Right? There are 3 left standing. Yeah. Trust me, right? And they are the best. They are the best. And that doesn't make them infallible. We're human and we'll make errors, et cetera. But they are pretty damn good and have demonstrated at that time they are flying.
Yeah.
And so what happens is everything gels, right? So on field, you'll have system at structure at stoppage and behind the ball. And when you turn it over, you know where you've got to fold back to and what you've got to do and whatever. We have the same. We've got system and structure. And what happens for you if someone doesn't fold back and do their job in the manner in which they are meant to? You get picked apart.
Yeah.
You concede a goal, right? If we don't have somebody doing what they're meant to do, we get picked apart. And free kicker error occurs. And set kick control is a cock up. and there's a missed 50 or a 50 paid that shouldn't have been or whatever, right? Things start to you start picking at pulling it, and next thing you go, a big hole in your jumper, right? It's the same thing. But what you've got is the three best. They do everything right. And it's not sexy talk. It's just disciplined every time, getting it right. And you know they're going to do it. You don't even have to look. So why do we umpire differently? We don't. We've just got three dudes who are killing it.
Yeah.
Right? With the best players who aren't prepared to take the piss because games are so tight. I'm not going to be the dude that does something with ill discipline, costs 50, costs a goal, and we get twatted by a point. I can't live with myself. I'm not doing it. So it's all these inputs that result in the overall product. It's not done differently, mate. It's just done well.
It's a good way to put it. Very good way to put it. I'll ask this because you talk about the three and you have to have gel between three people. Now, do you kind of travel as umpires as groups?
We do, yeah.
And is there kind of like some that you, I guess, like are more experienced with each other, therefore they kind of travel more often together, if that makes sense? Because I remember back to COVID days, and this is probably where I really gained, I think, an enormous amount of respect for umpires because you never really think of all the, I guess, things people give up to do their job. And then whenever that happened and the world got turned upside down, you realized like everyone gave up everything to do this career of AFL and to go and travel the world or travel the country and do all the quarantine and everything else. I remember being in quarantine in Perth, and I remember like traveling on planes with you guys and doing hotels with you guys and everything else. And it was like, these guys are doing guys and girls are doing the exact same that we're having to do. And don't get like the praise and the glory and all this other stuff. Like they just get bashed like 24/7, and they're doing all the same. Like they're giving up as much as we are. Yeah, and they're having to travel around, do all these crazy things that these governments are making everyone do, and it's not even like reported on. And it's like this is just expected from the AFL. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to play a game.
There was a game where the three umpires flew in on a charter to Adelaide, and this is when things were really on the move.
Yeah,
and we'd all been essentially in New South Wales. And then they dispersed us to Queensland, Perth, right, depending on the different border issues. Anyway, two of the three, I think, but certainly at least two, if not all three, had been in New South Wales within a certain time period, which meant South Australia wouldn't let them in.
Yeah.
So they've arrived, they've landed, and the coppers are there, and they've gone, no can do, bro. And you're going to go to the hotel for 2 weeks and park yourself there.
What?
Now, fortunately, one of them was a barrister. And he goes, I don't think that's how it's going to unfold. All right. So a conversation ensued. Anyway, so they weren't going to umpire the game, end of. They can get back on a plane. They went back to the Gold Coast, right? But they weren't going to. So now we've got no umpires there.
Oh, gosh.
So phones are going berserk, right? Dudes are on the golf course. And they're looking for people who have not been in Sydney in the last 14 days, right?
Yeah.
And they get them, they go, get to the airport now. So dudes are just grabbing their staff, hoofing it to the airport. They've got a private jet.
Right? Umpire's got a private jet.
I cannot even make this up.
Huge.
Hoof it in, land. They're in their kit. There's no, change of clothes, whatever. They are ready to roll. Into the car, coppers woof them to the ground. Everyone's out there warming up. The broadcasters are talking. Mark Rasciuto's got his thing going, whatever, right? And then like 2 minutes before they're meant to start the game, these umpires come barreling out the race and start bang away you go, right? So it was just madness. It was madness. And, in the 2 seasons that we had in 2021, and I'm only representative of everyone else on the list. I'm not special, right? I spent 8 months out of my house. And you got a young one and a wife and you got a small business that you're trying to run and all those things. And we're all impacted differently. Everyone, globally. It's a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But it was pretty full on. Our group knew that it was so important that we fronted because it's not about us, but unfortunately, if we don't lob, there's no game.
It doesn't happen, yeah.
And that, I remember initial conversations and there was all this concern about, because we didn't know about anything. We're going to get paid, how are we going to, will we see our family, what will happen? But we just had to have faith that the AFL would do everything they could to support us. I remember having this conversation with the group going, at some point we actually just need to put our faith in that we're going to get treated the right way.
Yeah.
And we were.
We looked after
and we were in spades, right? So I will look back on it. If it's a 20-chapter book, right? That 2020 and 2021, they'll probably be the best read.
Oh, love that.
Right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Because you had an Airbnb with a few other umpires, is that correct?
Yeah,
I don't know how much you want to release of that information. I remember having this conversation.
We had a Scarborough Beach pad for a period of time that was like, I think Kanye had been there the week before. Like, it was pretty good, and that was just a lucky sort of thing. But the best, hanging with your colleagues and actually hearing about and meeting their families and all those things when they came in for a period.
So true.
It was really cool. Like, it was a unique experience out of the 20 chapter career. Yeah. So it was full on, but I got to be honest, mate, I really loved it.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things, like because we were up in Twin Waters and we had two other teams that were always up there with us. And like, you talk about all the other families, like everyone's kids became friends and like, and like you go like playing against these guys on the weekend, you know, like, you don't really know each other because like you just kind of, maybe you played against each other growing up, whatever it is, but like you actually really got to know like people and their families and like hung out together and stuff like that, which is really cool. Like that doesn't really happen anywhere else or any other experience. Like,
nah. And I remember so all the families come for a period, right? And that was a bit controversial, and they had to go into a quarantine, and there was all the AFL and a few of the officials that had to come up, and I remember going, okay, who do I know that probably really matters? And like, so I would get on their LinkedIn page or whatever and take a screenshot and send them to my wife. I go, show some respect. If you cross this person,
say hi.
Just say hello, right? For God's sake. But no, as I said, you know, we were looked after incredibly well. And you'll have issues that bob up along the way, and you can be a bit aggrieved about something or whatever. But in a time that was, you know, really no one
had any idea what the future was.
Right?
Yeah.
We were looked after brilliantly.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You talk about that with the AFL and I guess the connection between the umpires and the AFL, because you're very reliant on them, they're reliant on you. It's very, very mutual, I guess, respect in that sense. Now, whenever it comes to, I guess, like reviewing games, like AFL and yourself, like let's say AFL wants to adjudicate something now or change a rule or whatever it may be, or look at things in a different light. Like, I mean, obviously we'll probably dabble in it because that is obviously quite I guess topical at the moment with Guinea, and head high tackles and all that. But how is the, I guess, like the stream of communication come from the AFL to umpires to, I guess, change things whenever you need to change it or adjudicate things in different ways whenever they come up?
Without getting too forensic, if a rule is going to be changed, not an interpretation as such, but an actual rule, it's got to come from the commission.
Yeah.
So they have to sign off on all of that. Okay. So there's due process there. And of course, you've got the executive and then Brad Scott and his team in that part. There's a streamline there. And then they'll be having conversation that's driven by data, coaches, players association, right? All of that stuff's getting thrown around. And then ultimately what will happen is there'll be a direction that will be afforded to the umpiring department.
Yeah.
Yep. This is what we're seeking. This is why, this is what underpins it, this is what we're trying to change, these are the reasons for the change, rah, rah, rah. And so then we will get taken along on that journey with examples, questions, all really important stuff when you're trying to contextualize this amendment that you're not going to get two exact examples. They might be similar, but no two are exactly the same, and we have to and then make the right call, right?
Yeah.
So you need to understand it to a depth that will allow you to do that. So there's a lot of that. But we get to see a whole heap of vision, multiple examples, plenty, as I said, all this debate, and not as though we're going to change anything. That's not what it's about. It's about making sure that it's cemented in our head. What am I looking for and where am I headed?
Actually do,
yeah? And why. So so that we're very well supported in that sense. And ultimately, our responsibility. So I say to people all the time, my opportunity to have choice around decision making is at its highest when I'm ordering off the room service menu, right? Like we're told, hey, these are the rules, these are the interpretations, this is what we want. You want to get picked, this is what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
So I need to park whatever individual view of the game I may have, which will be different to yours and the person at the coffee shop, right? My job is to implement the instructions in accordance with what I've been given.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Your extension of the AFL.
End of.
Bang.
And so park your fan hat and do your job. And that's actually really challenging, right? Because we're all passionate about it. You can't get involved in an elite level if you don't have a passion for it.
No, exactly.
You won't survive because it sucks. It wears you down and you're out, right? So we're all passionately involved. And so then you've got to park whatever emotional attachment you might have to something and go, what's my job here? I'm supposed to deliver on this. That's what I'm here to do. So that's part of the lens through which umpires view the game.
Yeah. It's got to be such a tough thing to be, I guess, like someone else's voice in a sense, if that makes sense.
No,
like you very much
totally
like
makes sense.
The IFL's voice on what is the rules of the game. Like, yeah, there's stuff to say, like a paperwork of like, this is this rule, this is this rule, but like you're the one in the pressure of the moment that's actually adjudicating and making those rules actually stand up.
Correct.
And I feel like that bit's actually just as hard as actually making rules and understanding, like changing them and everything else. Like that, I feel like is almost the hardest thing, is to actually be the conduit of the AFL and the players to say, this is how the game's going to be played.
And I think it's actually really, I've not had it. I don't think it's been, I've never been in a conversation with someone who's articulated it in that way. And I think it's I think it's brilliantly articulated and it's exactly what we do. And one thing that's changed in my 20 years involvement is this understanding and acceptance from the industry that a couple of things. One is that umpires will make a mistake. So if they've cocked one up, that's not the rule or the interpretation. They were a human being.
Yeah.
Like you miss a target, you double clutch a mark, whatever, right? You make mistakes. And then there's the other bit where the game, the industry, media even, I think, are much more empathetic around this, where they go, actually, no, that's what they're being asked to do. So they don't pile on umpiring so much. They'll talk more in reference to the rule.
Don't individualize the person.
Right?
Like, yeah.
And I think that's awesome. I think that's been a really good progression and an understanding that, hey, like you've intimated, you're just a conduit. So it's not, don't blame here. If you've got a problem with the rule, go upstream. If there's a problem with the implementation, then that's on the individual. Yeah, you make an error. Well, it's a wins and losses industry. So, right? We're the same, right? Get it right or get out. Yeah. So, that's part of the challenge.
Because I feel like people don't realize that, I guess, umpires are they're similar in the sense of like to players, as like you are reviewed every week. And like if you're not going well, like you get dropped and then you get moved up if you are going well. And like it's kind of weird because I think the AFL makes it seem as though like umpires are supposed to be in the background. Yeah. They're not supposed to be seen, really. They're not really supposed to be part of necessarily like the highlights package of the day, Like they want them to just, maneuver things to make sure it all works out. Everyone understands they're in the same place in the right places at the right time, telling them in direction what they need to do. But they don't want them to be in front of like the camera per se.
Yep.
And I'll talk back to you did make a highlight recently.
Oh, did I?
This is a few years ago now. An errant ball, let's just say, was kicked. And this is a very iconic moment of your career. Probably not something you want to have in your highlights package, to be honest. But let's say it hit your package. Let's just go there. So let's just say that. For your highlights package, the ball, someone kicks it offside, hits you in the package. And you just take it, like some people would just go, are you effing kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous, blah. You just take it in stride. And you're like, this is the first time probably I realized what this meant. And that means I'm bowled.
Yeah, it's out.
And that was, I'm out, whatever it was, for 10 outs, whatever the hell it is in cricket.
That's right.
And I couldn't stop laughing. I think it was such like an iconic moment that just described you so well. I was like, this man just gets on with it. He just is himself, has a laugh, enjoys life, and just moves on.
That thing come at me like a traceable. Fucking traceable at my
Dylan Grimes.
So he's monked.
Did he ever apologise?
Well, he didn't do it on purpose. He doesn't owe me an apology at all. And he's volleyed this thing and it's come out of it like a cannon. And I couldn't go under it. I couldn't go over it. I'm like, oh man. And it's hit me. And so you carry your spare whistle. You got like a pocket inside, like where you put your keys.
Yeah, it's a little like something, but yeah.
And I had a bruise. I got hit by a cricket ball.
Right.
Yeah, right. And anyway, the crowd went nuts. And I was right on the boundary line. They loved it, right? They were never happier. And I just went, that's...
Just waiting for that moment.
I just went, that's out, right? And they lost it. But I think, again, right, this is again coming down to understanding, like, what's there to fret about?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
Life moves on, mate.
Okay,
Like,
right? Next.
Yeah.
You know? So, but no, a bit of fun.
Now, we'll move into, we'll finish this footy chat off because a lot of people, obviously, it's very topical at the moment, and I won't go too in-depth into it because I don't want to get you in trouble by any means, but I want to get your take on high tackling at the moment.
Yep.
It's a lot of media around it. A lot of media. I'd like to get, I guess, your take on the ruling that is and what's being told from the umpire side of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke about this publicly last week on a different, like on a radio thing I do. So that's not a problem. So what's really important to understand is what's underpinning it is actually care, a duty of care for the players holistically across the entire competition, right? So what fundamentally underpins the laws of Australian rules football, and it's in the very first page of the role of the umpire, okay? And I know how much you've read the law book.
Huge fan of it.
Cover to cover, baby. And it talks about the role of the umpire, and there's sort of three key factors in particular.
Yeah.
And one of them is to ensure that the game is played in a fair and safe manner, okay? So protection of the ball player is paramount. That is still the same, but the problem is, right, that broadly across the competition, this doesn't relate to one player, right? Across the competition, and I can go bang, 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 any game you like, any club you like. I can show you examples. The game, and by extension I'm talking about players, are taking the PI55 with the laws of the game to induce free kick. Because as you know, set shot in goal, inside forward 50 in particular, that's king.
Yeah, it's gold.
It's so hard. So if you can get a free kick, right? You buy farms. Guys who take contested mark inside 50 buy farms, right? So I understand what drives that behaviour. That's okay, right? But then the extension of it, if you pull back for a moment, is that actions and those behaviours are inducing the very thing that we're trying to minimise and remove. So at some point, so let's say when you're raising a child, or even if for those without children, you got a dog and you're training the dog, right? If you reward shitty behaviour, what do you get?
Same.
You get more shitty behaviour, mate, right? So it's the same with this whole umpiring piece, right? If there's a carrot there being dangled out, you'll keep doing it. You've got to remove it and say, nah, had a gutful, not happening anymore. Play, actually. Win the football so that the people who are getting these frees, that's the first thing. They're getting the ball first.
Yeah.
Tick the box, right? Now run, carry, handball, kick, like play, not secure ball, find defender, lower, tilt, hook arm, look for high contact. No. Don't do that. Play. That's, I think, if we're trying to capture it, that's how I would articulate it.
Yeah.
So it is to ensure that you can protect the players. And what happens with you guys, because you are brave to a point where you need protecting from yourselves. You're mad,
So
mate.
true, yeah.
You're bloody mad, right? And I've got the most incredible respect. I go, holy shit. But what are you doing, son, right? You need to be protected from yourselves at times. And this is one of those moments. And we've had it with contact below the knees. Right? Go back a few years, you'd slide in and like rugby, clear the ruck.
Yeah.
Boom, knock them out, teammate come in. Right? Needed protecting from yourself. New rule. Can't slide in, feet and boots first, cannonball behaviour. Right? You need protecting from yourselves.
Yeah.
And I truly believe, and this is just my opinion, that's in a nutshell what's trying to be undertaken here.
It's a tough thing to, I guess, try to be correct on.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
I've never got a high tackle in my life, so I'm probably the worst person to ask, to be honest. But
to be fair, there's a few key indicators.
If someone's getting a high tackle, there's something wrong's happening. If it's me getting a high tackle from someone else, like
they've made they're
jumping above their standards. But yeah, it is such an interesting thing. It's great to hear your side of it because I feel like you do articulate very well of I guess we've talked about it being the voice of the AFL and how to adjudicate rules, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. But we'll move into it, man. I want to pump up what you're doing right now.
Okay.
Because you got so much going on outside of football. Now you've got You're founder and director of the Chamberlain & Co. Mortgage Broking Services.
That's true, yeah. So that's keeps me off the mean streets.
Because every umpire's got a side gig.
Yeah, well, we all are either studying or working.
Yeah. And you've started your own company, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, so that's 18 years now, and that I've been undertaking this and got a really awesome team. So that I get in their way. Like the more I'm away, the better they go. So my job is really to resource them effectively and then allow them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
So I've got a great team there. And the thing I like about it is you get to advocate for people. So like we look at budget and how many loans we've got to write and what our volume's got to be and what that equals and right, really sort of just clunky gears with running business, right? But what you're doing is like this person's able to take their kids to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Or this lady is able to buy her daughter her first car. Or there's always that under all of these things. I love those stories and I love helping people obtain that.
Yeah, reach their goals.
It's so cool, right? So that's the thing that that actually gets me fired up Monday through Friday with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get shout out to the website.
Yeah.
We'll get, I know, we're all about promoting yourself.
No, that's fine. So chamberlainandco.com, get on it and reach out.
And they can help you out with everything you possibly need financially.
Yeah. Well, you won't speak to me, so chill out. Is that right? It won't get to me. There's a front line there. I don't see that. It gets filtered before it gets to me, mate.
That's so good. And the other thing you're doing, Chamberlain Foundation. Now, I love this because this is something that you're passionate about. I've known you've done this for a while, and it raises funds to provide support for suicide prevention and mental health awareness. Now, can you speak a bit to that? Because I feel like that's something that's in today's society is so important.
Yeah, so this goes back 6 years now. And I remember, so I grew up in Canberra with my brothers and they still reside in Canberra and they've got families and businesses and jobs and all that sort of stuff. And I would ring them and it'd be, have you spoken to mum this week? Who's paying for Christmas? That kind of gear. And that was okay when I first left home. But it got to a point where it was like, hey, mate, who are you again? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why have you got that role, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we all did something that was a bit challenging and fun together? And the boys went, no, that's ace actually. Let's do that. And then life gets busy. And I was driving home one night down the Pean Highway and I was getting towards Southland and the phone rang. It was my brother. And I started giving him a bit of stick, as you do. And then I realised he was actually quite upset and he was emotional. And he said, Robbie took his own life. And I remember thinking he was referencing my cousin and my best mate and my best man. But that's Rob. And he said Robbie. So he was talking about his best mate.
Oh, far out, yeah.
And so now I'm feeling better, which was weird.
Yeah.
And Robbie left behind 2 young kids and a whole range of stuff. Now, it's not, we're not special, sadly. Sadly, we're not special. Like, this is out there. Everyone's got a story around this, which is kind of the point. But if nothing else, Robbie's passing put a rocket up us and it gave us a purpose. So that really narrowed our scope in what we're going to do. And so we created our foundation and it's legit. No one, and by the way, everyone who runs it is a volunteer. No one takes anything out of it. Fully like deductible gift recipient, audited, the whole bag. So that's super good. And we've been able to, raise and then move on nearly 400 grand, which is good, right? Like that,
awesome.
You feel great about it, right? Yeah. And we get to fund programs that support, and where we like to really channel into are return servicemen and women and our first responders.
Yeah, okay.
Whenever things go to the shit, we're looking at them, right? And yet I feel like they're probably not as rewarded or as supported as they really deserve to be. So our most recent donation was to the Police Association of Victoria, which was all around stuff pertaining to PTSD, resources and training for their graduates.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. But that's what we do. So we run events, we do things. So our first event was Boots in the Water in Bermagui, which is on the New South Wales South Coast. I know you know the Bermagui well, mate.
Yeah, beautiful place. Love Bermagui.
And then hiked to the top of Mount Kosciuszko.
Oh yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are the sorts of things we do. These bike tours.
Yeah.
We have luncheons and all that sort of stuff. So that's what we do. And we've got my brothers and we've got two sisters. Yeah. Who have formed the board for the most part of the time. There's some people who've come and gone, like we get accountant and all that type of stuff that represent and assist. But really the legends are actually like our tribe, right? They come to the lunch every year and participate, and like they're the ones who drive it. Yeah. And they're the reason why we're able to donate the money that we do and do the things that we do. So they're the ones who make it cool.
Yeah. I'll have to get you linked up with a charity I do called Life Changer.
Okay.
Life Change, I'm telling you, check them out. But that's awesome. Seriously, man. I love that people that look beyond themselves. Look beyond, and it's a classic kind of quote. I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's plant the seeds for trees you'll never sit in the shade of.
Correct.
And it's such. I'm pissing myself off. I actually butchered that, but that was the moment. But no, it's so true. And the people that have the mindset to be able to look past their lifetime, to be able to create a better future for someone else down the road, and to help people out that are outside of their inner circle, it's a credit to you, mate. It's an absolute credit to you.
Well. No, thank you. It helped me though, if I'm really honest. So I love umpiring, I love footy, but I had a tough time myself with just dealing with all this sort of media stuff and whatever, which I embrace now. I'm like, right, you can't take the cordial out of the water, right?
Yeah,
I'm into this. Like, there's no way I can dampen it or whatever. But I actually tried not to be part of any of it, and I remember being. I'm not going to say bullied because that's the wrong word, but I was strongly encouraged.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
You pushed the direction.
Right, to do an interview with Triple M, and they were really cool to me. Okay, yeah. They were. And BT and James Brayshaw and Gary Lyon and all that, Damo and that. And I dropped a silly line that they found humorous. And I suggested that potentially the dingo had taken the wrong Chamberlain, right? So I don't know whether you...
Go my baby. Yeah, so we're going out. Yeah. Right.
So and so then they were whoosh, and that was in 2007, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so then that all this razor stuff had been happening, and anyway, I got injured, and I had to have surgery, and it didn't go great, and so then I re-injured it. I pulled my kneecap in half in a game, Collingwood Carlton and the MCG, and so it was like, okay, you're cooked, and anyway, again, I loser's corner, right? So I took the family. Jeff Geesham was our boss. He goes, listen, get out of the country, go somewhere warm, right? Which was so kind of Jeff, right? He's a ripping human being.
Yeah.
He really cares. He's such a nice man. And so we went to Hawaii because that was the only place you could go that was warm, with a bang drop of a hat. And we loved it. And I read this book, Robbie McEwen. I got told, read this book. It's a great autobiography. I'm going, mate, it's about a dude in Lycra on a bike. Like how exciting can it be? Such a good read, right? And in it, he had a patella tendinopathy injury that rocked his career. His was a little more dramatic than mine. Came around a blind corner and smashed his knee into a concrete pylon, right? And what smacked me in my fat head, Mason, was that this book, this autobiography, his injury challenge, it was one chapter.
Small part of it, eh?
Of his whole fucking book, mate.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I realised was like, man, I can sit here and sook the house down, or I can just write this chapter out, actually, and write it as best I can. So I just threw myself into being the best rehabber that ever drew breath, right? So I've done 150 games since then.
Yeah.
I was told I was cooked. So I had to change a lot of stuff and whatever. But what it did was I went, this whole razor thing that I don't understand and I get angry about because people are saying stuff about me and I don't have a platform to talk back or at least provide my view of it, which didn't sit well with my personality, right? And so the problem was me. I knew that, right? I wasn't handling it well. I had to grow up and I had to become more evolved and smarter and all that sort of shit. This foundation, I went, if I get back and all this brouhaha's existing, I'm going to use it for something good.
Yeah.
Like that. So that I'm really lucky that I've got that avenue. Like it keeps me motivated and I get more out of it, I reckon, than I put in, is what I'm trying to say. And so it's cool and we love it and it's good for our family, the boys. Like it gives us something positive to talk. And we've met these two sisters who are just legends and they sort of umpire between us and stop us blowing with each other and that.
Always got that.
Right? So it's good. Yeah, it's good.
No, it's awesome, man. It is cool. Like it's to have it actually is like something your whole family does too is quite unique. I feel like everyone says don't go into business with your family, but I'm sure you've probably got stories, right? Don't get me wrong. You've probably got
on
stories.
The weekly.
On the weekly. Love that. Well, do you want to give a shout out, I guess, to where you can donate for the foundation?
Yes.
And I know you also do motivational speaking. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's good fun, actually. I love getting out to commute, like particularly like we do like corporate stuff and all that, and that's good fun, and you meet lots of people, and it's always, big events, and that's good fun. But the ones that are really cool, like, I was at Echuca.
Echuca?
The other week, right?
Hey, our producer's from Echuca, old Braden.
God's country.
God's country.
Right?
God's country. He's got some stories from Echuca.
Yeah, I bet. And
this would be good.
Got to go up there. It was brilliant. I had the best couple of days. It was so much fun. Met some legends up there, and you get immersed in local football and netball clubs, right? And it takes me back to, again, you're never gonna forget this place, the Tuggeranong Valley where I grew up, and playing for the Tuggeranong Lions and. It's just all of that again. And you remember why you love the game, actually. I love those sorts of things. But yeah, ChamberlainFoundation.org is where you can go to and find the donate. So we're it's on a big build at the moment. That's actually the task that's 2022. Yeah, okay. Is the creation of our online platform. So we've got a corporate partner who's helping fund that. So we're in the build there. But yeah, ChamberlainFoundation.org, and you can find us, donate now. And it's, as I said, totally tax deductible.
Huge.
You get your receipt and all that sort of gear. And the money goes directly to our partners. And so we've had the Police Association of Victoria, Are You OK, Lifeline and Griefline. They've been our beneficiaries. And they're all really, really reputable and brilliant organisations that are making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for doing that, and thank you for coming on the pod, mate.
It is
just so good to chat to you, man. Like, there's so many different facets of your life. I feel like they're so fascinating that we'll go to the USA at the end of the year. We're going to go do the USAFL together. And
California,
big fan. LA, here we come. The boys are back.
We'll find a couple of days to just find a couple of
extras on the back end. We'll find that, I'm sure. A few frothies for the postseason. But no, in all honesty, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I love your story. I love the way you look at life. I love your personality and the uniqueness of what you go about and do. It is so cool to see someone charismatically be themselves no matter what, and hearing some more about your charity and your foundation and everything else, it adds to the story of the human you are, mate, and it's a credit to you for what you do and the way you go about it. So massive thank you for coming on, mate, and can't wait to see you running around again. Hopefully you get out of the injury and back out there.
2023, good luck for the rest of the year, mate. You guys are flying and bringing joy to a lot of people, and thanks for the opportunity, mate.
No, thank you.